What's up everyone, welcome to another episode. Today is going to be another special one. It's going to be a proper bike build, and this time we want to stay on a budget. So I want to stay around the 1,000 euro mark, hopefully a little bit below. And then yes, in the end, this bike is supposed to be a giveaway bike and it's going to go out to somebody very special, but more about that later in this episode. So let's have that bike appear here and let's get started. So let's quickly talk about the bike that's behind me that we're going to be building up together. So as you notice, the bike is partially built up already. Like there are already some components on here, like there's some shifters on here, there's a stem, and the handlebars are on there already. And the reason for this is that this bike was actually built up at some point, but I needed a component for another project, so I disassembled it. And then yeah, I was considering like selling the frame or basically just having it, keeping it in storage. But yeah, now I kind of like recollected all the missing components that I need, and I thought it would be a nice gesture to actually give this bike away. And yeah, my girlfriend's going to be happy about that it's not just going to be another bike that's standing around in our apartment. Let's quickly talk about what we already can see here. So this is a full carbon frame with a carbon fork, and originally it is coming from a company that is called Derailer. It was completely black. I'm gonna pop in a picture of how it originally looked like. You can argue if that looked better or not, but it was an experiment for me. Basically, when I started thinking about Crankset in general, of just like labeling my bikes. Basically, I sanded the clear coat down, took all the stickers off, and then painted, like primed, colored, and did the clear coat on it myself. And yeah, this is how it turned out. I think it has some nice accents with these like neon fonts coming through on like the chainstay, seat stay, seat tube. So in case you forget how the individual parts of the bike are called, it's actually written on them. This is part of this budget build because back then I bought this frame together as kind of a second-hand set of an indoor training system. So I bought a Wahoo Kicker V3, I think, together with a Wahoo Kicker Climb, and that frame was mounted on there. So I would say that together, if we just look at like the second-hand market value of like all those Wahoo Kicker products, that this frame lands me around 320 euros, I would say. So let's say 320 euros for the frame. For some of those components, I don't actually remember the values. I'm just going to be putting it on screen after I've done my research and just checked my old invoices. Yeah, so you know, and you get the most accurate number. Maybe I'll also check what they cost these days in case, because there are some AliExpress parts on here that might have gone up or gone down in price. So I'll try to give you the most accurate price at the moment of filming this video. So what else do we have here? We have a bottom bracket mounted in already. It's actually one with carbon bearings. That one came with the crankset that we're going to be looking at and that we're going to be mounting in a second as well. Then we have the stem here in the front, which I also painted in the same color of the frame because I thought it's going to look nice. So then handlebar wise, we got my trusty OG Efkin handlebars, which I was riding for years on multiple bikes. So yeah, trusty on here, stable carbon handlebars, also a little up front mount in here. Then when it comes to the shifting system, these are from a company called Sensa, and they are from the Team Pro line. So they are pretty much compatible with the Shimano system. So with the Shimano front and rear derailers. You also have the other Sensa Empire Pro, I think, group set it's called. They are more compatible, or not more, they are compatible with the SRAM shifting system. But yeah, this Team Pro line actually works with Shimano, and as I'm mainly having Shimano components flying all over the place, and when I mean all over the place, just one set that is flying around and waiting for this build, I went for these shifters. You see that there are already still the outer cable housings, and the handlebar tape is already mounted from the previous build, so I didn't want to take all this off and like start from scratch, because we want to recycle as much as we can, create as little waste as possible. So let's see which cables we'll be able to reuse, if they're going to be long enough. We're definitely going to have new brake cables that we'll need, or maybe I can recycle the rear brake cable to become the front brake cable, actually, because obviously that's going to be long enough to just reach up to here. So what else do we have in the back? In the back we have the seat post clamp that already came with the frame. Seems like a pretty nice lightweight one, actually. Never had any problems while I was riding that bike back then. Then also the outer cable housings, they're all Elite Road Pro. I think out of the Road Pro kit or Pro Road kit. Nice and silver to kind of fit the gray. And then there is this little front derailleur clamp down here at the bottom, which is an original Shimano one. Yeah, because it doesn't have one mounted on the frame. So I would say, let's start building. We know what we're looking at so far, and I would say, let's mount the front and rear brakes, then get to the derailleurs, put the crankset in. And yeah, the plan for this is to actually finish this today. I'm having a dinner appointment in 2 hours, so I'll try to get this done in that time while also filming, which is obviously adding a little bit more overhead to get you the shots that you might want to see while building this up. So let's get started. All right, so for the brakes, we got some nice rim brakes from a company called Zitto. I think they came actually as being part of a set. I need to double check that, but yeah, you will see this when I talk about the price, which you now see here. Yeah, for those brakes. So we have one with a long screw, one with a short screw. Short screw, of course, goes in the back because you see there's a very narrow, thin part of the frame there, and yeah, the long screw needs to go all through the front fork. So I'd say let's mount the one in the front fork first. I'll say front fork as if there would be a rear fork, but there of course isn't. You see, how's that angle for you? You can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, I guess so. Let's not tighten it too much because we'll have to center it once the wheels are in anyways. So I would say that that's good enough. Let's put the stopper in here. Okay, that's front brake done. Okay, so now we're at the rear brake. Let's take the screw off here. The problem is a little bit that there is quite some paint. I left quite some paint here in that opening. So I guess we'll have to use a little bit of force, or I'll have to sand it down a little bit. Has this helped? Oh, yes. We don't need to put it in super tight because we'll have to center it later anyways. Fantastic. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I would say now let's quickly get to the front and rear derailleur. So for that, I'll quickly flip the frame around so yeah, you can see this better. All right, so as I've already mentioned, I think in the beginning for the front and rear derailleur, I'm going for the Shimano 105 system. So we got the nice 105 front derailleur and the 105 rear derailleur. They are from which series? Yeah, they are from the R7000 series. So yeah, good high quality stuff. I mean, especially the front derailleur with this new design works definitely way better than the old school rear derailleurs from the 105 or even the old Tegra version, in my opinion. So let's quickly mount them and yeah, let's keep on building. Okay, so for the front derailleur, we already have this clamp mounted. I mean, it's a rocket science. Basically, you just wrap it around and tighten one screw that's here on the other side that you can't currently see. Otherwise, you of course also have the option to just run this as a one-by setup. Then it's an even cleaner looking setup. But yeah, as this is a giveaway bike, I wanted to yeah, to not restrict it. So basically now just mounting in the screw in here. I don't fully remember what kind of crankset size was mounted here before, so there could be a scenario where we'll have to adjust the height of the clamp either up or down depending if yeah, if the bigger chainring was bigger compared to the one that we have now, or smaller, but best case it's also going to be the same size, and then we don't need to touch the position of that clamp, which would be nice. Here we got the beautiful 105 rear derailleur, so we're just gonna screw this one in here. The grease is gonna just distribute itself. There is a little pin or little nozzle or however you want to call it at the back of this thing. Let's make sure that it's also hanging behind the nose of the rear derailleur, kind of like this. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mounting the crankset, and the crankset is actually Oniri Race crankset. Now I'm remembering the brand name of the ceramic bottom bracket was also the same. So an Oniri bottom bracket matching the Oniri crankset. So let's quickly mount the crankset. What we want to do now is also put some grease on the spindle here. There you go. And distribute it nicely. All right, and now let's just push it through the bottom bracket. There you go. That looks good. I'm just checking where it's rubbing. Okay, it's only rubbing against that mount of the stand. And it's also a 24 millimeter through axle diameter, so pretty much the same as as a Shimano crankset. So let me quickly loosen that mount here so that we can just check if this is moving freely or if it's rubbing anywhere against the frame, because that can also happen, and then you have to put a spacer in between the bottom bracket and the crankset. So let me just open this up real quick. I need to push this one down. Okay, now we just gotta watch out that the frame doesn't fall off the stand, but that looks good, and you see how nicely freely that bottom bracket is spinning already. Okay, so let me put on that crank arm on this side then. That is looking good. All right, let me flip the frame around because the more interesting stuff is actually happening on this side. All right, so here you go. So here's this little compression plug. This one goes in finger tight. So normally it's, I think, around 1 to 2 Newton meters. So not really necessary to put in the torque wrench in here. Just finger tight is good enough. But then these bolts need to be properly tightened to, I'm doing 12 Newton meters normally because that's the specification for the Shimano ones. These ones don't really have a specification written on them, but I think it is safe to go with 12 Newton meters. So let me just adjust my torque wrench to the other one. I know it hasn't clicked yet, but I like to torque them up kind of equally together. Okay, that's 12. Okay, that's 12. Let's check this one again. 12, and once more. It's obviously very important that the cranks are properly tightened, because that can be dangerous if they're not. Okay, that's 12 Newton meters. I mean, look how freely these cranks are spinning. I mean, that's better than my bottom bracket. That was for sure way more expensive than that. I mean, question is also how long is it going to spin this way, but for YouTube content, I guess that's what most people want to see, huh? So, okay, so what we want to check now is the space between the front derailleur and the top teeth. I think it is fine, it could work, but I would say that it would be nice if we could move this at least like a millimeter lower. So we're actually going to be touching the front derailleur clamp and moving it down by a millimeter. So let's quickly do this together. And then while we're doing this, we also can make sure that basically this blade is aligned and in parallel with, the teeth and the chainring in the front. So let's quickly unscrew it here. Down like that. Looks good. So I think now we have around 2 to 3 millimeters between the teeth to the upper edge of the front derailleur blade, however you want to call it. So now let's make sure that's parallel, but that actually looks pretty good. So now we can tighten that screw again and we can continue. All right, so I think it's time for cabling. So what I'm gonna try now, I mean, when I was taking it apart, I basically was just cutting off the ends of those shift cables here. So let's see if there's still enough length to them to actually reuse them for the front and rear derailleur. So what I'm gonna try now is actually undo them and then try to push them through through the frame, or like on the outside of the frame into the front and rear derailleurs, and just see if that's if it's all gonna fit. So let's quickly do that. So let's route this cable here through the front, and now there are also some little rubber protectors. Let me show you real quick. So there are these tiny rubber protectors that go on the cable, and that pretty much prevents the cable when it's being routed here, because it's being routed along the down tube, that it doesn't rattle and hit against the frame and then potentially chip the frame. But I think mainly for the noise reasons, that you don't have that or don't hear that cable slap. So let me put 2 of those rubber pieces on here, so we can route it through here, and now we can route it up through a little channel into the front derailleur. Let's quickly route the rear derailleur cable. Let's route it here through this mount underneath the bottom bracket. And then there's this cable missing here at the back. Let me just quickly check. I think I have this. I have this from the previous build, so I can actually just stick this in here, route the cable through, and now we route it into the rear derailleur. Here we go. Here's the screw. I think it should just be fine. So I hope that I don't have to tweak the tension of this one too much, but actually there is a nice tension adjust here. So I think we should be all good. So I would say let's put in the cables into the front and rear derailleur, tighten them. Then we're gonna do the same thing with the brakes. For the brakes we need to use new cables, so maybe I'll be able to reuse one, but yeah, I'll have to reroute them from the shifters into the system. So let's quickly do the derailleurs. All right, so now we gotta take the cable, route it into here. Wait, maybe let's open up that bolt a little bit more, so we have a little bit more space. Route this in here. All right, so you see we got enough cable length. The problem is that we can't really pull the cables, so let me maybe get some pliers. Is it called pliers in English? I guess so. Okay, so if those are pliers, that's the thing I meant. I'm just gonna grab the cable here at the end, because what we want some nice tension here, so that we don't have to use the tension just too much. So let me put it under tension, and let's tighten that screw. All right, let's quickly try to shift in front, and let's see if it moves already on the first click. Yes. So that's what we want to see, that already on the first click there is some movement. All right, front derailleur, so I'm going to take that cap off here. So the cable needs to come from the back this way. And let's torque up that screw. All right, that should be good. Let me see if I switch gears here. That looks pretty good. All right, so now we got to route the brake cables. I still have the brake cables that have been mounted there before, but of course the front one, it seems very, very short. Let's see if I can reuse that. Otherwise, I'm gonna reuse the rear one to become the new front one, and then I'm just gonna use a completely new wire for the rear. So let's give that a try. Let's use the old rear cable now for the front. Push it through. There we go. All right, and now we just got to fill this in into the front brake. All right, that looks good. Okay, so for the brake cable for the rear, we're using some high quality jack wire road sport brake cable for Shimano systems, because of course for brakes we want high quality products, because they're kind of important. So now the cable is going in here through that outer cable housing and should be coming out. Take it out of the brake end somewhere there. Yes, there it is. You pull it all the way through here into the shifter, and now push it into the brake. So now time to tighten those screws. All right, so I'm gonna open up this screw here, and then put the cable in between those two metal plates, like this. Give it some good tension. Yeah. And let's compress it with that screw. Let's give that lever a pull. Looks good. All right, same thing for the rear. Tighten the screw. All right, let's give it a try. Pretty good. All right, so we're already down to finishing touches. So now I'm gonna add the saddle and the seat post. For the seat post, I'm using a rather generic AliExpress 27.2 diameter carbon seat post. And for the saddle, I actually found also on AliExpress a saddle that looks very, very similar to my Pro Logo 147 or like dimension 147 saddle, which I love. And yeah, I was riding this one. Very, very close, I gotta say, feeling wise. So yeah, I'm gonna gift this this wannabe Pro Logo saddle yeah, as part of the bike giveaway as well. So yeah, let's put this one on so it can be a nice comfortable ride. Okay, a little bit more than 3.5, and yeah, that looks good. Sorry, one thing that I forgot in regards to finishing touches, we also of course need to cut the cable for the brakes here. So let me quickly do this and then also add the end caps. All right. So what do we have for the wheels? So for the wheels, we got some nice DT Swiss P1800 spline wheel set, together with some Continental Grand Sport race tires. What are they? They're 25 millimeters. And yeah, with a standard inner tube. But yeah, these days I'm a fan of inner tubes anyway, so I think that is a good fit. For the rear, of course, we also got the DT Swiss P1800. It's not some Wild West mixture, but we do have a nice AliExpress lightweight cassette, which is, I think, as it looks, a 30 or 32. So yeah, good, I would say, for the starter bike and also for some easier climbs. So let me quickly fit this one in and then we can fit the chain. Free up sound check. So let me quickly get the chain, which I was actually cleaning when I was doing my chain wax video. So it's a nice clean chain. So we're gonna be able to put some liquid wax on it and yeah, start things off nice and clean. All right. I mean, the chain length should be all right because it is the chain that was on the bike previously. And I think we've seen that we didn't really need to lower the front derailleur hanger too much. So I assume that I was running a similar sized chain ring in the front before, but let's double check. Yeah, we see that it's having a little bit too much slack. So I would say I'll take 2 elements out and then we can, yeah, then we can link the chain. So let me get the chain breaker. So for this, I'm using from B-Twin, like the nice Decathlon brand. I'm using, yeah, their toolkit. I'd say great price performance ratio. Has most of the tools that you need. I'm just showing this to you because somebody asked in one of the earlier videos about what tools I'm using. So I think that, yeah, this is a really good investment to have. That plus a torque wrench and you should be covered for, I would say, 90% of the repair cases. So we're gonna break it here. Basically just pushing one of those pins out. Now I'm gonna be using those 2 chain links. They're for 11 speed. They're basically just gonna interlock into each other. So one goes, I think they actually have a little arrow on them for what's supposed to be the direction in which they are moving. So the arrow is pointing this way, which means that it's going this way into this end of the chain and the other way around into this part. And then there is another tool. You can either do it by now basically pushing into the crank if you have the bike on the floor, or there is an extra tool for this, which is looking like this. So basically I'm just grabbing the links outside of where the link went and I pull it apart, and you hear a little click, and now they're locked in, and yeah, shouldn't be going anywhere. So I'll add the price of the chain now here, and yeah, I think then we can continue. I'll do some small adjustments in regards to the stop screws for the front derailleur, that it doesn't rub, and then I think we can put the bike on the floor, put the front wheel in, adjust the brake pads, and I think then we're good to go. Just put some pedals on and we're ready. All right, so basically what I'm doing now, there are two screws here which are there to define how far this cage can travel, and right now if I push the lever, you can see that I can push the chain actually beyond the bigger chain ring. So if I would now continue pushing, you can already see that the chain is going to be falling off the big chain ring towards this side, which we never want to happen. So you basically need to limit its motion, which are why these are called also limit screws. So let's move to the upper ring as far as we can, yeah, and now we're going to use that screw to see how far we need to push it back. And we can see the cage is moving. And let's say this way it looks all right. Now let's pedal a little bit. Let's shift down. Let's shift up. So let's move the down screw a little bit in, because I can see that it's rubbing against the chain here. Shifting seems nice now. So now we're quickly going to check the indexing in the rear. So just if the gears are switching nicely, one gear up, up, yeah, nothing happens. So there's a little bit too less tension on this cable for this to happen. So we're basically just push it down again. So we're increasing the tension by turning this little tension adjust screw here. Let's see if we have enough tension now. If we go one up, oh, that was two, sorry. Now we're too far. Now I went all the way down and I can't go to the smallest sprocket. So I need to loosen it a little bit up again. There we go. Okay, so let's do some shifts now. Perfect. That looks good. Okay, one more thing that I need to do while it's still in the stand. I'm quickly gonna adjust the brake pads to the position of the rim. So basically the idea is here that whenever you push down your brake lever, whenever you push down the brake lever, that the brake pad is making contact only with the silver part, and it is almost perfect, but that this back is hitting it a little bit below it. So I gotta unscrew this screw, push it together, place it, put it in place, and then yeah, tighten that screw. So let me quickly do this. And we gotta do this with all four brake pads. Make sure that it's not touching the actual tire, because that's not what you want. That looks great. Let me get you close to it so you can see how it's supposed to look like. So it's maybe a little bit hard to see, but you see that now the brake pad is making perfect contact only with yeah, the silver part, so the brake track. I'm gonna repeat the same thing on all four brake pads. I lied. I only did it to 2 brake pads because, of course, we don't have a front wheel in. So I got to do the front wheel adjustment while the bike is off the bike stand and on the floor. So let's do that right now. All right. So now that the front wheel's on, let me quickly position the front brake pads correctly, and then to not forget that we also need to finally tighten the brake calipers in general, because we only, as you might remember, we put them in quite loose because we'll still have to center them. So let me see right now here, that looks good. So then, yeah, what's the verdict? What's the budget that we worked on? So all those components here together sum up to this number. And I'll just now strongly assume that it was around 1,000 euros, or if it was over 1,000 euros, that it wasn't far over 1,000 euros. So I think still successful for a bike which looks this way. And yeah, with that, I think that bike's done. One thing that I'm gonna do is a quick test ride tomorrow. So here's some footage from the test ride. All right, so I gotta say, this now rides very nicely. Shifts smooth, crisp, no stuck gears, no rattling. Way better actually than I remembered it to be. So yeah. So yeah, now the big reveal. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is a giveaway bike, and this one is actually going out to a very, very close friend of mine, and his name's Conrad. And you might know him from yeah, doing a special appearance during my Mallorca trip.
Cześć. That was amazing.
Turns out that he had a lot of fun actually riding that road bike with me together up in the mountains of Mallorca. And yeah, what I want to do is now sponsor him and kickstart him into becoming a road cyclist with this bike. So nice thing, there is a lot of potential to upgrade, so maybe we can also get him into, yeah, tinkering with the bike as well. So next week I'm going to be packaging this up nicely and yeah, getting it to him. So keep an eye on this channel. I guess the handover is going to be a story. Let's see if it's going to be a full video or not, but yeah, definitely happening next week. And then the plan actually is to in 2 weeks from now already do our first 100K together. And yeah, I hope he's going to enjoy it. And yeah, let's see where this goes. I'm gonna keep you posted on everything. So if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed this budget build, so if you're interested in more content like this, drop it down in the comments what you would actually like to see, because that of course always helps me to yeah, to plan out the content on this channel. And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you didn't, because I think 95% of people that are watching my videos are not subscribed. So let me know what I need to do to win you over. You know, also drop that in the comments. And with that, also thank you as always for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.